Hello.
Wonderful.
Here.
You're on now. My, you look pretty today.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I'm really excited about it. And, thank you for, having this time to provide a platform for creativity because, we are in the middle of so much turmoil, so much pain. And I'm grateful to have some time, these few minutes, this hour or so, to talk with a fellow creator and really keep in mind that we must, even in this time of great turmoil, really maintain our space and our vision as creators, as artists, to speak out as artists, but also to nurture ourselves at this time and to stay on point and to encourage each other. So I'm really excited to be able to do that today, especially with one of my favorite people and one of my favorite actors, Keith. And so, he's done so many, many things. I've known him for over 20 years and it's always such a joy to be around him. He always lights up the room, in person. And when he's on screen, there's just so many dynamic worlds he's portrayed, over the years. I mean, he just did 21 Bridges with Chadwick Boseman. I mean, the list goes on. Men at Work, Tales from the Hood 2, on TV, NCSI, New Orleans, Blackish, MacGyver, Fresh Off the Boat. I mean, the list goes on. His voice work is amazing. Ken Burns projects, The War, Jackie Robinson, jazz, starting out with jazz. So I'm really just excited to spend some time talking with him about his creative process and things like that. So,
right. And Carolyn, and we're so appreciative to you for being willing to do this and to open up your Rolodex and your world to us and allow us to see through your eyes and connect with your fellow comrades in the creative world. And we will not take any more of your time so that you can get to our special guest today. And so we're going to turn it over to you. And thank you so very much. And if you go right ahead.
Robbery, assault, arrest, resisting arrest. We got a collection agent for the mob. 2 of these guys have done serious time.
Look, they're the best at what they do.
So am I. And I'm not so optimistic. We spend $250 billion a year on defense. And here we are. The fate of the planet is in the hands of a bunch of retards I wouldn't trust with a potato gun.
What the fucking leg? Oh, you stupid son of a bitch! You grabbed the wrong leg, you stupid cocksucker! Come here, you asshole!
I want my motherfucking money here.
Easy, good now, man.
Dumb son of a bitch. Give me my fucking leg.
It is the nature of humankind to fear what they do not understand. Their ways are not our ways. This is about the future of energy in this country. They want the explosion, the chaos and carnage. The more deaths, the better.
Oh, for God, never say
What's that bubble there?
What do you think? Well, how the hell did you get the beans above the fry? I mean,
Because somebody let our froggy prince go, Larry. I'm reduced to asking for help from my friends on the other side.
Don't think too much. Don't you be no fool. Remember, ain't no such thing as a coward out here. Don't mean nothing.
Isn't it nice to know somebody out there loves you? Say amen, somebody.
A man is allowed to be discerning. A pastor is required to be. Look at me for the sinner that I am. The Lord has a plan for me, and I'm getting back to it.
Keith David, right now, Star Greenlee. Hey, Keith.
Hey, Carolyn, what's happening?
What's not happening? What's not happening?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
For us, the world is unfolding.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, especially today. So just going to jump right into this and, tell us about your origins a little bit. I mean, needless to say, your work is amazingly diverse. So what inspired you to become an actor? Where'd you grow up and what was your first inspiration to be a performer?
Well, I've been an actor my whole life. I mean, and I will tell you that there were three things that I wanted to when I was a child that compelled me, held deep interest for me. Singing, acting, and I wanted, and for a long time I wanted to be a preacher.
Wow.
Or a lawyer. Now, of course, in those early days in the early '60s, and they had things like Dennis the Menace and Father Knows Best. They had all these TV programs. When I watched the Donna Reed show, I wanted to be a pediatrician. When I watched Topper, I wanted to be a bank president. But I really, Perry Mason, I love those kinds of procedural shows. But as I look over the landscape of my life, I really, I'm actually taking seminary courses right now. Just
really,
I was moved. I got an opportunity to do it, and it's something I always really had interest in. Mm-hmm. So, and I believe, I've said for years that I believe that acting is my ministry,
right.
And but in both instances, I believe deeply in my soul that it's a calling. I don't, you can't make an actor. Now you can take a very talented performer and give him tools and add to his bag of tricks, and they can pull off a pretty decent performance. They can, they can perform well. Mostly, I think, in a sort of limited range of what they can do well. Mm-hmm. I think the call of an artist is something else.
I agree.
And those are fewer and far between. Mm-hmm. And you also have very, very good actors. Mm-hmm. Who are good at what they do, and they're distinct them from entertainers or performers.
Right, correct. Exactly.
But perhaps you might not extend that gift into what I'm going to call being an artist, and there's a difference.
There is a difference.
I'd like to consider myself an artist.
Absolutely.
And perhaps there'll be those who think that's presumptuous, but that's where I that's how I look at myself, because I believe it's a calling. I love acting, mm-hmm. and I'm happy. I'm really glad to be doing what I love, but I don't do it just because I love it. I do it because I'm compelled. Mm-hmm. It's what I have to do. It's what my spirit and my soul needs to express itself.
Mm-hmm.
Singing is another one. I have that's another outlet for my soul, right, to express itself. I used to, when I was younger, I used to write a lot of poetry. I'm trying to get back to that, because that's another soul expression.
Exactly.
And every poet ain't an artist.
Absolutely.
Because certainly it ain't always about rhyming. That's and I love spoken word art. I mean, and it's a spoken word artists. Mm-hmm. And many spoken word artists don't rhyme.
Right, exactly.
It's not always about rhyming,
Right.
But
I'm glad you touched on that, because I believe that myself, because I think as an artist, it expresses itself in many ways. I mean, your spoken word and, writing and then performing you do as a musician, as an artist, it comes out. You're right. It comes right out of your soul in many different kinds of expressions, many expressions. So, there really, really is a difference.
And when you look at rhyming artists, people who do use the couplet as a means of expression, that stuff is smart. You don't pop that out of
Right.
just at the top of your head without thinking about it. Right. And those who are able to spit, seemingly spontaneously, that also comes from a wellspring of training. They have their brains, that's the way that they've trained their brain to work, to be able to find those words, and they have to be able to look for those words that capture the meaning of what they're trying to express.
Exactly.
So that's not, when you hear it done well and with some degree of intelligence and smartness and astuteness, that's when it goes into the realm of artistry, because it's like, this stuff takes thought.
Oh, absolutely. And it's coming through you like lyrics to a song, like lyrics to music, and to be able to set to a melody.
Well, but even, lyricists, and I have endeavored to try to do it myself, but good lyricists have a tremendous vocabulary, because to get across the meaning of the story you're trying to tell, and have every other line rhyme in a rhythm, that's Shakespearean in scope. You know what I mean? Molière.
Right.
That is no easy task. I mean, it can be daunting.
It can be.
And then it's one thing to write it and have it make any kind of grammatical, literary sense. And then it's a whole nother thing to be able to speak it, spit it, and have it make sense.
Yeah. And again, back to the artistry, I mean, right, with what you do as a musician, as a crooner, with your Nat King Cole show, it's like those lyrics, being able to convey them. I mean, that's the art of a great crooner, is where you're phrasing, like yourself, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra. It's all in the phrasing. That's where that passion, it differentiates each person.
Again, what differentiates one artist from another? Because, when you talk about the Great American Songbook, just like or any work of literature that's, what is the word? Classic. 1,000 of us could take one passage to interpret. And now 500 of them will sound exactly alike. They'll fall into a certain pattern of what makes sense syntactically. And then there'll be another at least 250 of people who will just start stressing words and syllables just because they can, for the simple reason to be different. And every once in a while it may make a little sense, but it mostly makes no sense. And you as the listener, you have to fight to understand what's was trying to be, interpreted.
Right. Exactly.
Then you'll get somebody who will, go out of the box and interpret it in a way that you would not have thought at first. I would have never phrased that way. I would have never put that sentence together like that. But when she said it, wow, it made sense.
Right.
And it took me someplace else. You see, now that's art. I mean, that's jazz.
Right. Exactly. It is. Exactly. So talk about that as your process as an actor when you approach a script. I mean, when you see those words on the page, I mean, what's the first thing that moves you? What attracts you to a character?
First of all, I'm attracted to the story. Does the story make sense to me?
Mm.
You know, and then where does this character fit in the story? Because sometimes, even if the story is about the journey of this man, there are other characters that contribute to the story and contribute to that journey, you know, and what lessons he's learned, has to learn, or you know, experiences he's had to go through. So, you know, when you look at you have to look at the full scope of it. You know, you can't play the last moment when you walk through the door.
Correct.
You know, there is a trajectory. There's an arc to that, to the story of this character, and there's an arc to the structure of the piece. You know, if it's a good writer,
right,
every word was particularly chosen.
Absolutely.
Specifically chosen. Nothing is random.
No, not at
all. Every once in a while, sometimes, not all the time, in a screenplay, you may come across a situation where whatever's, you know, there is a underlying message that's trying to be communicated. Most of the time, much of the time, it ain't about what's being said. It's what's not being said. What you know, these words betray a certain level of communication.
Correct.
But is what's being communicated in and around below that.
Right, the subtext of it.
Yeah, so you got, you know, so sometimes, you know, a writer sometimes can be a little bit on the nose and too much about, because they want to, in the desire to be very clear. Because sometimes we have to have a discussion and say, well, if that's what I really want, given the clues that you've given me about who this person is, at this point in their life in relationship to whose person I'm talking to, he would never put it like that. I think that's too revealing from him to her right now. Or it's not revealing enough. Why skirt around it? At this point, he would come right out and say, look, this is what I want. Why are we dancing here?
Right.
Now, unless there's a specific reason why, you know, he's dancing here, that maybe it has nothing to do with her, has something to do with something else. Does that make sense in this moment?
Right, exactly.
You have to see, and is there a payoff for it?
Right. For the character James Greenleaf, what has that journey been like? You've been him now for 5 seasons. And what has that been like to have all those? Because there's a lot of colors to that character and a lot of subtext and just a wonderful journey.
Every day, I believe, God reveals to you a miracle if you are in tune enough to receive it. Greenleaf was a great gift to my life and career. When I read the script, I knew this was somebody that I knew immediately this is somebody I could play.
So not natural in it.
I know something about this man, you know, in my spirit. Are you not hearing me?
I can hear you fine. We're getting some bleed over from some other people talking. If they can mute.
Okay. So you know, I got to fulfill a fantasy. You know, if I had earlier in my life chosen to be a minister, then my life could look like this. I have three. James has four. Had four children. One passed away, but I've got three children, and two of them are girls, and I've got my wife is nothing like Lady May, but she is a woman and given to all the things that the wonderful differences that women are. And so he's, when you don't spend 40 years with somebody and not learn a little bit about them, and you also learn to accept that which you don't necessarily like about them. But you learn how to accept them, so you don't have to tell them about it every time they talk to you. I love being able to have that interaction with Lynn. It teaches me. It teaches me something about being at home. Right. Something. My mama used to say, "You do not have to say everything that's on your mind."
Thank you. That's right. Exactly.
And I have learned that you probably shouldn't.
So just because it comes across your mind doesn't mean it don't come across your lips. Exactly. Right. So how much of yourself, your personal behavior, have you brought to James or any of your characters? And, or what's
a little bit. I mean, there's that little bit of yourself that you have. I bring myself to the character, but I mostly look for what's different more than what's the same. I mean, sometimes I can intuitively I can feel what's the same, what's different. I don't want to play the same guy the way I played the last guy.
Exactly.
I need to find behaviorally, physically, what is different about this guy.
And how in getting into a character, I heard Meryl Streep say one time in the actor's studio that when she puts on the character's shoes, it locks her in. Is there any specific thing that you do that
I try to hear his voice. How does he express himself? Does he have any key phrases? Does he have a pet word or a pet phrase or where is he from? Where was his mama from? So are there any sounds in his ear that remind him? I remember, I worked with a wonderful actor, Earl Hyman. And
I studied acting with Earl Hyman.
Oh well, I
loved him.
And one day he said to me, he says, whenever in doing the Shakespeare, he always finds a line to bring home, and to bring bring home and bring home. He has Southern roots, and he said, so that there's certain idiosyncrasies that can be cliche, but cliches are cliche because there's a certain level of truth.
Right.
So, for example, we're playing Othello, and he says, and the line is, "Had all his hairs been lives, my great revenge had stomach for them all." And Errol would say that, I could hear an interpretation where he says, "Had all his hairs been lives, my great revenge." You have that, a certain cadence.
Yeah.
But it's got to make sense.
Totally. And one thing Earl said too in class that I loved, he said, the space between the notes is just as important as the notes themselves.
Jalapeno. Language is all about music. When you're doing August Wilson, it's jazz and blues, and it's not a whole lot of acting in between the lines. And so the rhythm of the language, you have to earn that pause. Just sit there, scratching your whatever and way to beat. No,
Yeah.
There's a rhythm in the repartee.
Right.
And then if you do have a pause, it means something.
It means something because every word means something, like you said. So the pause that takes you in carries you to the meaning. You know, you're gliding. It's like between music and water and air.
When you get to discover that in rehearsal,
and
then you get to rediscover it. I mean, it's another kind of rediscovery when you get to the performance. I've always, I mean, this is kind of antithetical or something, but I've always, I mean, in that sense, the performance is almost anticlimactic to the rehearsal.
Really?
But it's not, because you find there's a different kind of energy in the performance of it that you can't possibly get in rehearsal, because there's a different exchange of energy. There are people. There's another breath and energy in the room, in the atmosphere that's not there when you're rehearsing.
So how is it different from you doing stage, you know, because you've done these wonderful August Wilson, and I met you when you did Coriolanus, I think, in Shakespeare in the Park. So how is it for you as an actor doing stage versus film? What's your approach? How is it different?
To me, the part of the approach, it has to do with the energy. You wouldn't play a 2,000-seat house like in the Park. You wouldn't play that the same way that you would play a 300-seat house.
Correct. Absolutely.
You have to find what is the right decibel. You know, I mean, to be heard and understood. Just like when you're doing it, when you're doing a movie and you're playing an intimate scene, whether it's, you know, next to her in a bedroom or across the table at a restaurant. I mean, if I would have talked, even with these microphones, if I would have talked to you like this and continue to talk to you like this in a decibel that would force you to say, "Huh? What? What's real about that?" There's not. You know, I mean, we start getting into these, you know, silly arguments about realism versus naturalism, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's like, you know, there's nothing real or natural. There's nothing natural, first of all, about being on stage in front of, you know, 300 people. Nothing natural about that. But I can create the illusion of reality.
Correct. Absolutely.
And being that is a creative process. That means that it's art. I also want you to hear it. And I want you to be able to hear it in a way that makes that invites in your psyche and in your imagination as if you were eavesdropping.
Correct.
If I talk too loud, then it's not.
Right. Yeah.
If I don't talk loud enough, you know, I mean, I mean, that's part of your technique. There is a thing, you know. I want to draw you in. But I don't want you to. I don't want to draw you into the point where, what? Because if you can't hear, you can't see. You're going to miss something. I mean, you know, and as in life, you know, finding that balance is to me, that's what performance art is about. You got to find the balance. You know.
All right, so we're gonna
say hello to Dion. She just came in.
Really? Oh, okay. Hey.
You gotta come this way. Huh? Carolyn.
Yeah.
All right. I was like, I don't know, because I'm not looking so cute, but since it's you, I'll come.
Hi. Hi. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for the cupcakes.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, we're going to get your husband out of here in a few minutes so you guys can go celebrate for our audience. It's Keith's birthday. So we're going to get him off here in a few minutes so you can go party. Pandemic style. So we're going to got a couple questions from our viewers here. Someone wants to know, what characters have you played that have changed you?
That have changed me? James Greenleaf has changed me.
How much of you going into the ministry was inspired by that? Was it something that you brought from your like you said, your early life, or playing the role too?
I mean, both. Both. You know, I met a wonderful, wonderful minister who said to me, if you ever wanted to pursue ministry for real, I would help you.
Mm.
So I said okay, and you know, it's a long journey. I'm not looking. It's not going to be overnight. But I'm excited about it because it's, for me, it's just an opportunity for me to get closer to my God, whom I'm not afraid to call God. You know, and I'm happy to be on an adventure, that helps me to do that. You know, hold on one second, please. David, I'm on a Zoom call. Can I call you right back? Okay, I'll get it to you. Okay, bye.
Okay, another question here. What has been your favorite voiceover role for animation?
Oh Lord, Gargoyles and Spawn. Those are two of my very, very favorite. But you know, I also cannot leave out Dr. Facilier.
Oh, is that from The Prince and the?
Princess.
That's my favorite. That's my personal favorite. Okay, we've got one more question here. Then we're going to wrap up. Has the COVID-19 pandemic slowed down opportunities for you?
Slow down opportunities? It has slowed down actual work. Opportunities get created out of situations like this. You have to create new ways of expressing yourself, new ways that you have to redefine yourself.
Very true. Yeah.
You have to recreate yourself. So I find myself now in a much more, a different kind of responsibility, trying to source projects now, like coming in as a director, coming in as a producer. So, you know, I mean,
talk about that. Talk about your work.
If you look at the world, I'm very sorry that it had to come to this before people started to take seriously the responsibility of each of us as individuals. You know, you're here on the planet, not just to waste space and to take up, to breathe air that somebody else could have used to made better use of.
Right.
What is your contribution? I believe no man is an island, and every single human being out of billions of people, each one has a contribution that we as a human race could not do without. So you got to find what that thing is.
Amen.
Everybody has their particular gift, and you have to find what that is. And here we in the middle of a pandemic, which needs to be paid all kinds of attention to.
Yes.
Because people are dying in droves. Now, I don't know personally how the numbers are manipulated here or there, and how much truth is not being told. I do know I have seen enough evidentiary, proof that people are dying. Black people are dying. Black people are dying disproportionately to this pandemic, partly due to lack of care, lack of access to care, and ignorant propaganda. Now, I mean, again, the discernment has to be exercised here. This brother George Floyd. I mean, oh my God, how much more in your face can it get?
Right.
At the same time, somebody was making comparisons about the 60s and the protests here. In the 60s, those protests were very, very organized. The movement was strategic. Mm-hmm. So you can't, one has to discern, how are we going to do this? You have to say something. We have to protest. Absolutely. But you also have to be careful to not let your emotions run before your head to market. Right. Be smart. Be smart. If we can socially distance and raise your voice, fine. But I've seen several examples where all you are is mad. So you run out in the street with no masks, with no social distancing, people spitting all over you and raising their voice and spraying and when we don't know exactly how the disease is spread, we have to then watch out now for the second wave and what it's going to look like. Because you were just mad. I'm just as mad. But you got to find out, okay, how can I make my voice count when I want to express about how I feel about George Floyd? Mm-hmm. One, the most obvious thing is voting. You got to vote these people out. Now, see, part of the propaganda process is they will discourage the hell out of you to make you feel that your vote doesn't count. What is very present here is obviously your vote does count. If your vote didn't count, they wouldn't go so far out of their way to discredit you and to discourage you to not vote. Mm-hmm. If enough of us got out there and voted, these people would go. They'd have to go. That's the system that they created. Right. And they can't unbreak that. They can't, that part, there's a lot of things that are broken in the system. That part is the most consistent part. Now they'll, electronic vote, mail-in vote, they will try to obfuscate the situation. But the point is, your vote has to count. Now they can try to find ways to make it not count, but your vote does count. Mm-hmm. So, don't let them discourage you to the point where you think it doesn't count. That's what they want you to think. That's what they want you to do. And if you don't vote, then they do win, no matter how you feel. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can't let your emotions run away from you. And that's how we make it. That's how we make the grandest difference.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Absolutely.
But going out there being pissed off and putting your health and the health of the other people that you love in jeopardy, that's just not smart.
It's not. You're absolutely
And that's another way that they kill you off. Right. Then they don't have to shoot you because you've shot yourself in the foot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's you have to pay it. That big they, whoever the powers that be, and we know who I'm alluding to. That machine is powerful, and it's in place differently than it was in the 60s. Mm. There were things that they could not get away they couldn't get away with anymore. Mm. And that truth was being put to light. Now we have social media, and so certainly a lot of things again are being put to light, but we have to be careful.
Still, yeah.
They have found ways to use it against you. So make sure that you're not putting your foot on the gas of the problem.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. So we're going to wrap up here. One last question. I want to find out what you're working on now. What projects going forward? You mentioned briefly getting involved as a director, producer. Are you working on anything now as a producer?
As a producer, I'm working on a Joe Williams show right now.
A theater or a film?
All the above.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Joe Williams was one of our great, great artists.
Mm.
His career spanned 60 years. Finally, he died in 1999. It was 3 months after his 80th birthday. And he was singing up until then. You know? And for me, one of the most significant things about Joe, that he was always a class act. He brought a class to the blues that has not been mirrored before nor since. You know, and to achieve what he achieved in the midst of Jim Crow America is unprecedented. You know, Nat Cole did it, but Nat Cole was never really a blues singer. Nat Cole was he was a balladeer, and I have done and still do my Nat Cole tributes.
Yeah,
but it's different than Joe. Joe, man, I get so turned on when I think about Joe Williams, because he's, always a class act. When you grow up, you want to be like Joe.
Right. Yeah. Amen.
So that's mainly what I'm working on right now.
Okay. Well, you got lots of birthday wishes from all over the country and world here. So happy birthday again from all your fans and viewers here. Also, how did you like the cupcakes, the cupcake collection down in Nashville?
Well, when I leave you, I'm going to get me one. A nice hot cup of coffee.
You and Dion and the girls.
And I want to thank the ladies from Nashville and the committee the festival that sent me those cupcakes, because I'm going to enjoy them.
I know you will. They're great.
Somebody say jalapeno. Yes, jalapeno. See, we're not in church, so I'm not going to say hallelujah. But jalapeno.
You had me saying that too. There's things that merit the jalapeno. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Not many things, but the jalapeno, right now. Well, thank you so much for hanging out today on your birthday, taking the time out. I really appreciate it, just as a testimony to our friendship, because I've always adored you since day one, back in the days.
You know that. Love you to love.
Yeah, love you too. Love you lots. Love you lots. Yeah. So have a great day. I don't know if the ladies from Nashville were going to come back in for anything, or we're going to sign off now.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Yes.
We want to say thank you. That was an excellent interview, and Keith certainly lived up to that and more. His great character, the things that he's talking about. And, I wish we could ask you to sing just a little bit, do you want to wait until you get to Nashville for it?
A little prodding goes a long way with it.
Go ahead. All right.
I'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
You may be miles and miles away, but still you're with me every day. The miles just seem to disappear, making believe you're here. Each night when I sit down to dine, you're in the chair across from mine.
Oh, my.
Your smile erases every tear, making believe you're here.
Bishop, that was awesome.
Bishop Crooner. All right. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your day, and give Dion my love.
See you soon again, here.
Okay, definitely.
Right. And thank you so much, Carolyn. We really, really love you and appreciate you for all of the work that you're doing and for what's to come.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure. I'm always about supporting the community and students. And again, like I said, to me, it's, you talked about our purpose in life and finding our lane right now. I've been, given a lot of thought, being in lockdown and in quarantine. And one thing that certainly has become very clear to me is like where we do belong, and my role, I think, really is encouragement. I really want to be an encourager, and there are people out there in the streets, and that's where they need to be protesting. But I really believe that my role is to be an encourager and to be an uplifter during this time, because we've got to, as I said in my note, we have to maintain our vision and our enthusiasm during this time as well, to be able to move forward. And to nurture ourselves as artists. So anything, that's my lane. And to keep creating as a writer. I mean, I'm, writing my first novel right now. I've got, scripts out there, and so I'm really about, finding and maintaining a voice to move forward with. And thank you again for this platform to be an encourager and a nurturer. Thank you.
Well, we really, again, like I said, we appreciate it. And just think about that it's going to take all of us to bring our strengths and our talents together so that we can share them with the world. And not only that, just think about who you've encouraged today. Look at what Keith has shared and all of his wisdom and the stories that he had to tell. And one of the things that I would like to say, when during the movement early in the 60s and 70s, when I watched them in the 60s, participated in them later on, music was such an important part. It was a balancer, and I just thinking about sometimes we march and we talk and we hear, but we don't hear enough of the music. Martin was very, very clear before, he made sure that he had Harry Belafonte, he had the singers, the Freedom Singers, all of those people. It was just, right, Joan Baez, everyone, that came along and participated and gave of their time is so important. So for him to end today with that was just a special treat, special treat.
All right. Amen.
Again, Carolyn, thank you again so very much. And we look forward to your coming works that you have in place right now, and to speak with you again very soon.
All right. Well, have a great day. God bless.
God bless. Thank you.